Hey, welcome to the next episode of the Hive with Us podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Martinez. Today, I have special guest, Raymond Sjolseth.
This show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than six figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at HiveMindCRM.io.
I got his name right for the first time out of all the episodes. So please take note of that, Raymond. See, I've been listening today. This is our episode we called Deal Breakdown. We cover cool, interesting stories. If you have not seen the other episodes, please go back and watch them. They will be somewhere around this episode. Please go watch them. He provided a lot of value across each one. This is probably the last one I'll release, so go check it out. You might have an podcast in a few months or a year, who knows? But please go watch those other episodes. Raymond, what is your cool, interesting story for today's Deal Breakdown?
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me back, man. So I bought a property on a private racetrack.
Where are you from?
No, man, this is real. So I joined a automotive country club, and it is it's like a golf country club, but for racers, right? Like race car drivers. So I joined this club. It had, like initial dues and then an annual cost, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I joined this club, and then I'm like, oh, cool. Well, they have real estate here, right? Well, let me take a look at this real estate and see how it's doing. And okay, so I checked it out, poked around. I'm like, well, I need a place to keep my car anyway, right? So I might as well have a place, and I can bring my kids here. This will be fun. And long story short, I joined this country club. I bought this property. This property was one of the first buildings that was built when this country club was built. And in this property, it was two guys who went in on a partnership and built this building. But then they put a wall down the middle of the building, but it was one building. Okay. So when it was like a good old boy agreement. They had like no real paperwork. Okay. And the way that this worked is so that the country club, it was built on like 400 and plus acres, this whole country club. It had two different racetracks, a go-kart racing track, a main house, if you will. And then there were vendors all around the outskirts of the track, like literally like race car mechanics, race car shops, that kind of stuff. Tire vendors, gasoline pumping station, like all that kind of good stuff. A cafe in the middle of it. And what ended up happening is, because of the way these guys had structured their deal, there was literally like no paperwork. One of them got the bill for the annual taxes and the annual dues, and they just split it and all that kind of stuff. So now I come in with the guy who wants out, who's selling it, and there's nothing there. So I had to start completely from scratch and rebuild this deal from the ground up. Well, on this 400 acres, the way they get away from actually functioning and being billed and taxed like a municipality, at least this is how I understood it, is they do 99-year leases. Okay. So here's this steel building sitting on a piece of property on a 99-year lease. Okay. I see your face, man. This is just getting better as it goes, right? So good. I call my attorney, my business attorney, and he's like, we're going to need like Mike, one of our real estate experts, in on this. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, how much is this going to cost me? He's like, 10, 12, 15,000. Okay, cool. That's fine. Let's get it done. Go ahead and paper it. Long story short, it took about 3 months to get this deal done and papered. And the last thing I was ever told that this was going to be like 12, 15 grand, right? Dude, I got a bill for $50,000 from my attorneys.
Attorney costs.
Just attorney's costs. The whole deal was 600 grand.
Yeah.
Okay. $50,000 on all this stuff that was papered. Literally. And dude, we formed like 3 LLCs, and then there were LLCs with sublease agreements for the parts of the building. And then we had this other LLC for the 99-year lease and this partnership. And I looked at all of this paperwork, and then I'm like, Jesus, like this is a nightmare, like an administrative nightmare, right? Because we ended up with 3 LLCs. One that was a partnership that held the 99-year lease. Then we each had a new LLC to actually hold the building from the LLC that was holding like all of this structure. And I remember thinking, I called my attorney and be like, man, last time we talked, this was like 12, 15 grand. How'd we get to 50? Like, I'm not paying you 50. Yeah. Right. And we ended up coming to a settlement. He wasn't happy. I was happier, but I still wasn't happy because it was, if I remember correctly, at least double what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. But it wasn't just that cost. Now it was the LLC costs. Now it was the accounting costs. Now it was who's keeping track of all the books. Now it's who's filing all the taxes, right? So one deal structure can get so complicated that when you're looking at the cash on cash return, and in this case, it was for enjoyment, right? Like it was also, it was leisure, and it was like ultimately a business write-off, like marketing, automotive, blah, 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 bring clients there, all that kind of good stuff for the business I was in at the time. But there are so many levels that you have to start asking questions as you get into different deals that you really have to understand the structure and what is that structure going to cost you, right? Like that becomes an important question, because before you know it, something that may cash flow you 100 grand a year may cost you 60 grand a year to operate. Yep. And if you're not prepared for that, where it's only going to net you 40 grand, is it worth it? Probably right. Not. And that's a stupid example, but it's a real example.
Yeah. 100%.
Of like what is actually worth it, let alone all the other things that go with it. Right. And what's in all of these contracts and reading all these documents and being familiar with them. And like, I'm not a contract guy, man. Like I don't want to be. That's why I hire lawyers and professionals and all of this stuff. And well, let me tell you another fun piece of the story. Later on, I'm like, hey, I have all this space. I should like sublease some of it to other guys who want to keep their cars, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what? I go to sublease the space and start talking to my other buddies at the track or people that I know that want to store their cars there, only to find out that the track owners and operators, they get a piece of anything that I lease out to anybody as part of this deal. I was never told about that. I never knew about that. I never read that fine print. Now that's on me. Again, I'll take accountability for all my mistakes. It's my responsibility. It's in their contract, not mine, but their contract, right? So you start thinking about all of those things. Now, at least this dude a space for $1,000, right? A month. He has 5 cars. That'll help me offset the cost. Well, now I'm only getting 500 because other 500 goes to the, guy taking the chunk out of it, right? So again, my point is there's so many levels to different deals that can be done. On one of my episodes, I talked about a multi-use building I bought in Pennsylvania. That was a restaurant with a liquor license, and that was its own crap show. But even here, like thinking about this building, right? Like there was no structure. So I had attorneys create the structure, which got expensive, but then managing that structure got expensive. And before I knew it, I was hemorrhaging money on something I was just trying to do for me and my family and my buddies to go have a good time. It was never worth it. I wish I would have never, ever done that deal. I would have been much better off paying one of the guys there to just leave a car there and show up and use it and do the thing. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And it was like, I was a car guy, man. Like it was a dream to have a shop on a racetrack. Like literally I put on my fire suit, get in my car, go fill up and go hit the track and go do laps, right? It's like a racer's dream. But all of the bullshit behind that, dude, it was not worth it. It was so much work and such a bad use of cash.
Wow. I think you're going to win an award. I'm going to have to make an award just for you these stories. I've only heard of racetrack, like condo type things.
Yep. Same thing.
I've only heard of that. And I heard it for like F1 type stuff. But it seems like you have like a private. Where is this property at?
It's called the Audubon Country Club. It's in Joliet, Illinois. It's a cool place, man. It's awesome. Like it really is. It's cool. They did a really good job executing it. It's super family friendly. I'm a big fan. I just wouldn't own a property there again. Like that was a mistake.
The Joliet. I've been to Joliet. I know where Joliet is.
Yeah, it's on the opposite side of Chicagoland Raceway.
I used to work in Joliet.
Okay.
For like a year.
Yeah, so it's off like the 355.
Wow.
Or, yeah, 80 actually.
I'm gonna Google this. So I've always wanted to do the racetrack stuff because I enjoy fast cars too. And this story intrigued me. Intrigued me a couple different ways. Like I said, I've heard of the apartment condo things that F1 has. I've heard of like all this stuff, and I've like never like. I'm not there yet.
Well, when you get there, let's have a conversation.
I'm not there yet, but it's a cool thought. But like the subleasing, and like I understand like the difficulty of paperwork and attorneys because I've dealt with stuff like this, but not to that extent. And I understand like the maintenance of businesses and paperwork and bookkeepers, and like it's not that it's a heavy load to carry. It's just it feels like a annoying thing that's tied to a string on your ankle when you walk.
Well, it gets expensive, and I guess my point, if anybody walks away from this episode with one thing, is that remember there's a cost to doing business.
Everything right? You do.
Yeah. There's a cost to everything you do. So whether you're buying an apartment building, a single family home, a single family portfolio, there's always costs there to be accounted for. And they're carrying costs. They're legit carrying costs over time, right? Whether it's a home and you have maintenance, or the home comes with a pool and then you're going to have to maintain that pool or the pool equipment.
Yep.
There's all of these costs there to think about. So when you're committing to something, just ask the right people so that you know what all those costs actually are. And that's going to help you decide whether or not you should do that deal, right? Like if I would have truly understood what all the carrying costs for this was, I would have never done that deal.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, I would have found another way to do it or to get the outcome, right? Because there's always a different way to get the result.
100%.
And it was the result that I was after.
Yeah. And you got it.
I got it. Yeah. And I enjoyed it for the 4 years that I had it. Like I'm grateful. Like I have great memories, great images. I had a golf cart, rode around with my kiddos, like kids got to go in some race cars and drive go-karts. Like it was fun, man. I enjoyed it, but it was a bad use of money, specifically my own money. Yeah.
Oh man, this like I said, I think you're gonna win an award for the craziest stories for me on this.
Dude, I'll take the award, bro. I got more.
I'm gonna have to make one just for you. I've never felt the need to create an award until I heard your stories.
All right, I'll look for my award. I'll send you my address.
Oh man, this is such a cool story. But for everybody listening, and this is why I know it's a thing too, because I sent a contract to my attorney about 2 weeks ago, and he sent me an invoice for $450, and we had a 10-minute conversation. That's what happens.
Yep.
What happens in this business when you need sound advice, you got to pay for it, and it doesn't seem like it's worth it, but it's worth it because he might save you $100,000 in the long run for $450.
He may save you $450,000 10 years from now. You have never
exactly. So like for me, it's just paying the $450 and like, okay, is it good? Yes. Okay, I understand the risk. Okay, let's go. Okay, we're inside this, and that's the price of doing business. But you always need those checks and balances because they could save your ass.
100%.
And assets.
100%.
So I appreciate this episode in that way because there's underlying costs that you may not even fathom if you're not at this level, but they're there and they could add up, and just be aware.
Yep.
We're going to find you online, and please go check out his other episodes. They've been great. I enjoyed it.
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening.
Raymond Sjolseth.
RaymondSjolseth.com. RaymondSjolseth.
Link will be below. Please go check it out. Thanks for sharing it. He's also a podcast host, the Agent Podcast. If you go ahead and listen to the episodes, please go check them out. So much value, so much insight given for me personally. And it's been a great series of episodes for Raymond here.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate you, man.
For the least part. Go like, share, go share with your friends. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, we hope you're enjoying this content. If you have leads that you need to dispo anywhere in the country, please visit hivebc.io, like hivebuyersclub.io, and we'll help you move those deals that you need to get into the marketplace.